Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. No, you stay right here, and then we're gonna.
How are you doing?
We're going to go ahead and begin our webinar. My name is Linda Besmer, and I'm the managing partner of Muses 3 LLC. My partner, Dr. Carl Franklin, is there at our host school, Herod Elementary. I'm very pleased to introduce our Author Talk panelists, our host school, Herod Elementary, represented by Assistant Principal Brian Bancroft and the second grade team, and Janet Riehecky, children's author. First, I want to cover some housekeeping issues. For those of you that are not in our host second grade classroom, if you would like to have your students' questions posed to our author panelist, please use the Q&A button found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. This will let you type in your question, and we will read as many questions as possible for our author panelist to answer. Now I'd like to go ahead and turn the introductions over to Mr. Bancroft at Herod Elementary School.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mr. Bancroft. I'm the assistant principal here at Herod Elementary. We are in Houston Independent School District, and we are in an urban school, and we're so happy to host everyone for this webinar. I'm pleased to introduce our guest author, Miss Janet Riehecky. She's written over 130 books. Many of these books are about dinosaurs. And today we're going to hear more about what a scientist does, how authors use words and pictures to help us learn about subjects like dinosaurs. And now, here's Miss Janet Riehecky.
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to get a chance to talk to all of you. Hi, I can see you waving at me. Hello, everyone. Hello. Oh, I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about being a scientist, because being a scientist is one of the coolest things in the whole world. Scientists get to learn about everything in the whole world, and even outside the world, they can even study about space. They can study, well, you probably already know, there are lots of different kinds of scientists, and they want to know so many different kinds of things, like how do birds fly, and what causes diseases, and how do living things affect each other, and where does snow come from anyway, and what time's a good time to plant vegetables, and is there life on other planets, and what were the dinosaurs like? That's the question that interests me the most. What were dinosaurs like? So you already know that there are scientists like a biologist that studies all about different kinds of animals, and there's a botanist that studies about plants, and an astronomer studies the stars and the planets. That's a lot of fun too. And a geologist studies about rocks.
Yes.
And an ecologist is really important these days. They study about everything about our world and the environment. But the paleontologist is what I want to talk to you about today, because that's the one that I like the best, because a paleontologist studies all different kinds of life in the past, not just dinosaurs, but they also study about ancient plants and other kinds of animals that lived at the same time as like the dinosaurs. Anything that's in the way ago past, they're interested in. So, does anybody have any questions about kinds of scientists?
Kinds of scientists.
Kinds of scientists.
Or anything about scientists in general, what they do, what they want to know about, anything.
So we have one question, Ms. Riehecky, just a moment. So if you
Okay.
and ask your
I like your mask. That is great.
Why does a scientist like to study about all the things around us?
Because they're very curious. They want to know about everything. Okay? Any others?
one more question. Let's have a gentleman. Yes, sir. Come on over here. Put your mask on. And ask your question. Go ahead.
Is there any more types of scientists?
Yes, you're right. There are lots more types of scientists. I would spend the whole hour if I listed all the different kinds of scientists there are. So if there's something else that you like to study, I'm sure there's a scientist that does that and learns all about it. Okay? All right, so let's look at things. Scientists do three main things. First, they observe. They look at everything very closely. And then they measure things like measuring how big a skull is or how long Tyrannosaurus's skull is really, really, really big. Or they measure how far it is to the stars or things like that. And then sometimes it's a lot of fun. They do experiments like mixing up different chemicals to see what you can come up with. I am a scientist, but I don't have a degree in paleontology. When I went to college, I studied English because I knew I wanted to be a writer, and I've written all different kinds of books. But I'm still a scientist because I've been studying dinosaurs for 30 years, and I love learning all about the dinosaurs, and I read all kinds of books and articles and things like that to learn as much as I possibly can about dinosaurs. I collect dinosaur fossils, and I have a huge collection of over 50. Now, some of them are just copies of the real fossils. I wouldn't be able to afford a real, in this corner right here is a Tyrannosaurus foot, and it's enormous. This toe right here is about 3 feet long. And if I were buying it, it would probably cost me about $100,000, and I don't have $100,000. So I bought a replica or a copy of it. But as you can tell, it's a perfect copy, so I know exactly what it looks like. So I have all kinds of fun with my collection. Okay, one of the most fun things that I ever did was go on a dig to actually dig up dinosaur bones. And this is a very old picture of me when I was very young. Way back in 1989, I went on a dig in western Colorado, and I don't know how well you can see it, but I'm holding in my hands right there a bone. And that bone is one of the side fins of this dinosaur down here. And this dinosaur had never been found before till I dug up that first bone. And it's called the Pelta. And that's a picture of it down there of what that dinosaur is. So I feel really, it was an amazing stroke of luck. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was digging away and found that bone. And then the paleontologist in charge of the dig was able to tell exactly that it was from a brand new dinosaur. And it was one of the most exciting things I ever did. And so if you ever get a chance to go on a dinosaur dig, you should go because it's a lot of fun. Okay? What paleontologist is kind of like a writer because we're both trying to find a story. The paleontologist wants to know all about what the animal looked like and what it did and how it interacted with other dinosaurs and so many other things. And they're trying to find out the story of the dinosaur's life. And, usually, unfortunately, a dinosaur story starts with the dinosaur dying because that's how it becomes a fossil. And then sometimes scavengers eat the dinosaur, and then we never find out anything about it. But about one in many, many thousands will get covered with something like mud. And then the dinosaur, at first it's all under the mud. As you can see that dinosaur there. But over time, the soft parts break down and they decay, and all that's left is the bones, the hard parts. And they may sit under, for years and years and years and years, more years than you can imagine. A Tyrannosaurus might be under there for 66 million years. But then, before I go on, I wanted to ask, do you have any questions about fossils? Oh, I see lots of hands there.
Fossil question. Would you like to come up? Fossil. Put your mask on. Okay.
How many fossils have you found?
I have found, probably just a dozen real fossils. Okay, not as many as I would have liked.
Question about fossils.
What was the oldest fossil that you found?
Well, the Biborapelta fossil was the oldest one. That was from a period called the Jurassic period, which was about 100 million years ago. And that was a very long time ago.
Okay. We're okay to go ahead.
Okay, all right. Then after the dinosaur is different things like an earthquake or like the soil eroding away. It wears away over time. All of a sudden, a piece of bone will stick out from the ground, and a paleontologist or a fossil hunter might see that bone sticking out of the ground. It might be just a little bit, but they know what to look for, and they go, that looks like a fossil. So then they start to dig, and they dig, and they dig, and they dig. And this is hard work sometimes because it's usually very hot, and it's very dirty, but it's so much fun because when you find something, it is so amazing. So a paleontologist, a lot of the time is spent in digging up the fossils. Then when they find the fossils, they have to protect them. So they put plaster all over them, like the plaster, like if you ever broke your arm or your foot, they might put it in a plaster cast to keep it safe. Well, they're trying to keep this bone safe by covering it over with plaster. Okay, and then they package it up very carefully. Now this one has already been taken out of the plaster, but to move it, they put it. See, this is all foam around it, around the bone, foam, and then there was, of course, a top to it, but that's been taken off to show you how carefully it is packaged there. Okay, sometimes great big bones can't be put in crates, and they get taken out by a helicopter, and that's kind of fun to have a helicopter just to pick up a dinosaur bone. Okay, then they're taken back to a lab. It's called a fossil lab. This is a picture of the fossil lab at the University of Chicago, and this lab belongs to Dr. Paul Sereno. Paul Sereno is a really important scientist. I don't know if you've ever heard of the super crocodile, the one that was absolutely enormous. He's the one that discovered that and many, many dinosaurs. So this is his lab, and you can see there's workstations around the edge, and they have bones on tables in the middle. Okay, so sometimes, though, they have to put all the bones on a shelf because they don't have time to work with all of them. There's always room for volunteers to work on the bones. They love volunteers to come in and work with the bones because there just isn't enough money to pay people to take care of all the different bones. Okay, so they bring the bones out and put them on the table when they're ready to work on them. Okay, this is a close-up of one of the workstations here. One of the most important things is this thing right here. That's like a vacuum cleaner, but it sucks up all the dust. Because when you take off that plaster cast and stuff, and when you're chipping away bone, or rather chipping away the rock that's around the bone, then it gets a lot of dust in the air, and of course that's very bad for people. And so they have this vacuum cleaner to suck up all of the dust. Okay, so here is one thing that a scientist does. They very carefully, like you can see over here on the tooth, there's rock that surrounds most fossils, and it has to be very, very carefully removed to get it out of the, this rock around the fossil is called matrix, and the matrix has to be removed very, very carefully. Sometimes they even use something like a dentist uses to clean your teeth, to get very, very carefully around the bones. Okay? We can learn a lot from each different kind of bone that we find. For example, these are three things of different kinds of teeth that the dinosaurs had. Plant eaters, some of them had a leaf-like one, and that's good for gathering and things. Some of them were just like the stub of a pencil. But then this one, this is a meat eater's tooth because it's curved. And you can see right here, this edge right there. That edge is like a steak knife. You know how in a steak knife, the blade goes up and down and up and down? The word we use to describe that is serrated. And so there's a serrated edge right here and a serrated edge right there. And that is, so those teeth cut through meat just like a steak knife cuts through a steak. And so they were very, very sharp. And so that teaches us about what the dinosaurs ate and a little bit about what their lifestyle was like. Okay, here you can see a close-up of a real tooth, and you can see that serrated edge real clearly there. And that is very, very, very sharp. Okay, it looks even more impressive when you see a whole mouthful of those teeth. You can see there, this is a Tyrannosaurus, and you can see that mouthful of teeth there, and every single one of those teeth was as sharp as a steak knife. So you can guess that he was quite a predator. Okay? Now, this is an example of a plant eater's teeth. And look at those teeth. Those are just little peg-like teeth, a lot like a pencil stub. And they were no good for chewing. I mean, can you imagine chewing with teeth like that? So one of the things they had to figure out was, how could this dinosaur that needed to eat a ton of food every day, a ton of food is 2,000 pounds, that would be 8,000 Big Macs every day. Could you eat 8,000 Big Macs a day? Not me. So anyway, these teeth were just used like a rake then, they figured out. And they would put it around the plants and then just pull back, and it would pull all the leaves off a branch, just like a rake would pull in your leaves. Right up here, I'm in Illinois, and right now we're seeing all the leaves falling off the trees, and people are getting ready to rake up all the leaves. Okay, here this paleontologist is using an air jack, and it's a tiny little jackhammer that it used to see. You can see here, this is that plaster cast, the cast that they made out of plaster that they put around the bone, and they're taking that off right there very carefully because they don't want to hurt the bones. And then the paleontologists have to figure out how to put them together. Okay, look at all these different bones here. This is a tail, and you can see that it would be very difficult to figure out, like, does this one go here or does it go there? and to get them in the exact right order and then to put them all together is one of the jobs of a paleontologist. Okay, and so sometimes they have to lay them out and match them up to see what bone goes where and how they're going to all put it together. Okay, and then I threw this one in, I think, just to show you that after they're done with part of it, like this skull was probably crushed and in several different pieces, maybe even 20 or 30 pieces when it was found. But they very carefully put it all together, and they glue the different pieces together when they can glue them together, because then the cracks don't show as much, okay? But sometimes they, I was going to tell you about this too. When they get the skulls, this is kind of cool. This is a skull, and then a guy by the name of a paleo artist, not a paleontologist, but a paleo artist, takes these things like a skull and then tries to imagine what the dinosaur would look like in real life and makes them like almost like a mask like you guys are wearing right now, to see what the dinosaur might have looked like. Now, we don't know what color the dinosaur is, but they kind of imagine how it might have looked. Okay? All right. Sometimes when they can't use glue, they use metal rods to hold the dinosaur pieces together. But they try, not to let it show too much. And to hold things up, they have to use very strong metal rods because bones are very, very heavy because they're really rocks. Because when fossils form, minerals seep into the bone and turn it into a rock. And so all fossils are just rocks. Okay, but they're very, very special rocks because they're all in the shape of the dinosaur bones. Okay, and so you can see here how they try to hide this when they've got very heavy bones. Like this foot here is from a long-necked dinosaur called an Apatosaurus. And they try to hide as best they can the things that are holding it together. So when it's in a museum, what you really see is just the skeleton and not all the things that are holding it together. And that picture is from the Field Museum in Chicago, where they have some great skeletons, okay, including this skeleton. This skeleton is Sue the Tyrannosaurus, and she's a very famous skeleton because she is the most complete Tyrannosaurus skeleton that's ever been found. They found about, I think, close to 66% of her bones. and it's unusual to find that many of it. This is a picture of Sue when she used to be in the entrance hall of the Field Museum, but they've given her her very own galley where they can show you what it was like in her whole world when she was alive. And she's pretty cool. Okay, so are there any questions about dinosaur fossils?
Okay, so fossil questions. In the white shirt, yes, please come up.
Make sure it's about a fossil.
Ready? Come on up and ask about fossil. I'm sorry. That's okay. Do you want me to read it, or can you tell it to me? Our young student would like to know if the dinosaurs could turn invisible.
Oh, that would be a cool superpower, but no, dinosaurs couldn't turn invisible. That would be very cool, but no, they can't. They couldn't do that. They were animals, just like the animals that are alive today. Well, they're not just like those animals, but they were animals. Okay.
How do you put?
Can I see what your mask is?
Yep, put your mask on.
Yeah, that's such a cool mask. I like to see them. Okay, what's your?
I'm getting a problem with this.
Okay, that's okay then.
Go ahead.
How do you put the dinosaur fossil together?
Okay, it takes as long as 2 years sometimes to put it together. They have to put every bone into the best shape they can. Where bones are missing, they have to make the bones or else find them in another animal that's just the same. And then they slowly put it together, sometimes with glue, sometimes with wires, sometimes with metal braces, and piece by piece, just like a jigsaw puzzle, they put it together, and it can take as long as 2 years sometimes to put together a dinosaur. Sometimes it goes faster than that if they have lots of people working on it. These are good questions you guys are asking.
Okay, go ahead unless you've got questions from the chat.
I didn't get any questions from the chat, so, okay. All right, so I wanted to tell you just a little bit about me, because they said you might be interested in what authors do. So I write lots and lots of different kinds of books. These are some of my books. I wrote all these books here, and as he said, a whole bunch of others. I've published 132 books. And so you can see I write on lots of different kinds of things. I loved doing the book on Megalodon. I think that that is such a cool, cool animal. Its mouth was so big that it could open it wide and swallow a great white shark in one gulp. That's how big it was. And then I loved learning weird things about all the different kinds of insects and scorpions. I felt so bad when I was writing the book on orangutans because they're becoming extinct. If we don't take care of these wonderful, beautiful creatures, they're going to be gone, like the saber-toothed cat is now gone. But I also do other kinds of things, like I did a biography of Ulysses S. Grant, and then I did a lot on dinosaurs because I love, love, love dinosaurs. I also write some fiction. I don't just write about things that are true. Sometimes I make up stories, like this one. For example, this one, I had in my, in the nonfiction books, my purpose was to tell people about things, to get them interested in things. Like if I can get you interested in orangutans, maybe you'll help us to keep them from going extinct. And when I was writing Save the Forest, that's what this book was about saving the forest so that they don't, so that we have enough green matter for the animals to live. They need habitats. Plus our world needs the oxygen that that the trees and the plants provide for us. And so my purpose in writing this story was to get people to care about saving our forests. And this one was for real little kids to learn about the letter W. And the Mystery of the UFO was just for fun. And then this was a book about opposites. And so I had a bright and lively puppy and then a really sleepy, lazy puppy. And I was showing about how they were opposites. And then this was a fairy tale. And so I write, I have fun making up stories as well as telling real stories. Okay? Some of the pictures that I showed you today were from a book that I'm working on called Visit a Fossil Lab. This picture, this skull right here that you can see, that's Super Croc. That was a prehistoric crocodile, and you can see how big it was. That's just its mouth there, okay? And this guy is a paleo artist. His name is Tyler Creeler, and he was my partner in working on this particular book that was that we set it at Paul Sereno's lab at the University of Chicago. So my purpose there was that I didn't know that there were any books out there about fossil labs. There's lots of books on dinosaurs and even about digging up dinosaurs, but there really isn't anything out there about what paleontologists do in a fossil lab. So I thought I would write a book about it. Okay? When we write books, authors like to put things in that help people to see things. Like if I just said he had a short tail, that would be hard to picture. But when you see a picture of it and you can see, oh, yeah, I know lots of dinosaurs have really long tails, but this is short compared to most dinosaurs. And then we can show you exactly what the horns look like, okay? Or show you that a lot of dinosaurs, plant-eating dinosaurs, had a beak on the front of their mouth, just like a parrot or a turtle. And then you can compare those hooves to the claws that a meat eater might have. So diagrams are very helpful things in a book that authors put in to help you picture things much more easily than if I just put it in words. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. I wrote a book on China once, so of course we wanted to put a map in there. And it shows all the cities and the rivers and things like that of around China. And you can picture which countries are close by, and that this is the Pacific Ocean out here, and that the Philippines are really pretty close to China, which I didn't know till I worked on this book. Okay? In a fiction book, one of the mysteries I wrote called The Mystery of the Missing Money, it was, in order to find the missing money, they had to figure out where everything was in the house because one of the bedrooms had a secret compartment in it, and that's where the money was. And so it was important that my readers be able to picture what the house looked like, so we could put that in it, okay? Sometimes we want to put in different kinds of numbers and things like that. One of the things that authors care about a lot is to show that there are all different kinds of people in the world, but our books don't always tell us that, because half of the books that are written for children are about people who are white. 27% are about animals, but only 10% are about African Americans. Only 7% are about people of Asian descent. Only 5% are about Hispanic people, and only 1% are about Native Americans. And so you can see that we need to do a better job of representing all different kinds of people in the books that we write. Okay? So this is all kinds of pictures of me. I wear a lot of different hats. Besides, being with the dinosaurs, which I absolutely love, I'm also a magician, and I do magic tricks for kids sometimes, and I find that that's a lot of fun. In fact, I do magic tricks in a show I do called Writing Magical Nonfiction, and so I dress up like a mad scientist, and I show them through magic tricks about what it's like to write nonfiction books. And when I talk about mysteries, I become a mysterious queen. And then sometimes I'm just me talking to a group of kids. And I like, no matter which hat I'm wearing, I love talking to kids, and I love the chance that I have to share about my life and my books and things with kids, because I think that I have absolutely the best job in the whole entire world. Look at all the fun things that I get to do, and I just am so grateful that I get a chance to do this. Okay? Are there any questions?
Miss Janet, we do have some questions that have been submitted via the chat and the Q&A.
Okay.
I'd like to read those to you first, and then we're going to go back to our students that are live there. I just wanted to make sure that you do get some of these questions in.
Okay.
A student from Miss Retzel's class wants to know whether or not volcanoes hurt the dinosaurs.
Probably yes. The world had a lot of active volcanoes. Of course, the dinosaurs were alive for 120 million years, so there was the Earth changed a lot during 120 million years. But we do know that at the time that the dinosaurs died, that a lot of volcanoes were erupting in what's now India. And they aren't sure if that's because of the earthquakes that were triggered when the asteroid hit the Earth, or if that just happened independently. And so, yes, the volcanoes definitely could have hurt the dinosaurs.
Great, thank you for answering that question. We also had a question come from Mr. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing Lutfak's class. A student in that class wanted to know if the fossil that you find, does it depend upon what soil it's found in?
Yes, it does. We can tell how old a dinosaur fossil is by the rocks surrounding it sometimes. It would be there'd be traces of plants that they can look at. There'd be all different kinds of things close by. And so it's very important that they not just dig up the bone, but everything that they find around it, so that we know how old this fossil is. And some areas like Hell's Creek that you might know about, that's down in the southwestern part of the country, they know pretty much that they're going to find mostly things there from one section Jurassic and another section is Cretaceous. And there were three main eras that the dinosaurs lived in: Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. And each one was ended by an extinction. So there wasn't just one extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs. There were actually three as they changed into these different eras. But the dinosaurs survived the first two. They just didn't survive the last one.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. The next question from the same class is, what do you do if one of the bones breaks?
Oh, that happens all the time, no matter how careful they are. And sometimes it's broken before it's ever dug up. They put lots of glue on it as much as they can. They cover the whole thing with glue to keep it from breaking, and they put glue between the different parts, and they use lots and lots of a very special kind of liquid glue that works well on bones.
Great, thank you. Let's see, how many different types of dinosaur fossils have you found?
Okay, I've only found 3 different types because I only went on the one dig. I would love to have gone on more, but I only went on one. Sometimes in Illinois we can find fossils, but there are no dinosaur fossils in Illinois. So I have to travel if I want to look for those.
Okay.
Most of the stuff in my collection I actually bought from people.
Okay, great. We have a question from Reese Elementary in Alief ISD, and students there want to know, do fossils sink down in the earth?
Yes, they can, especially if the earth is soft. Like anything else, if you put it on top of soft ground, eventually it sinks down and down and down and down. And then different things like the wind can blow the soil over the top of it, or if it rains, that can help to drive it further down, or lots of different things. Even a dinosaur stepping on a bone that's in the ground will push it down further under the ground.
Oh, how interesting. Let's see, we'll take 2 more questions here, and then we'll go to our live students. One of the questions here was, what is the biggest bone that you've ever found?
Oh my goodness, the biggest bone that I've ever found was only about, let's see, it was a rib bone. It was about a couple feet long. Okay, about 2 feet, I would guess, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that's not as big as the big bone that I posed with before. That was, by the way, a Christmas gift from my husband one year, was that great big bone. And it was made in Texas. There's a place in Texas that makes those bones out of fiberglass, and they usually do it for children's museums. but my husband got them to make one for me for a Christmas gift one year. But that is 5 feet 7 inches, and I never found anything that big myself. But I was really happy on Christmas Day to open up a great present like that.
Very cool. One last question I'm going to take here, and then we'll go to our students there that are live at Herod. And then if we have time, we may have some other questions here. A student wanted to know, did you find T-Rex bones?
I did not. T-Rex bones are actually quite rare. In all the time they've been digging up dinosaurs, they've only found about a dozen different skeletons. And so that's not very many compared to what we found of others. Like the dinosaur Protoceratops, they once found a field that had 10,000 bones in it, all from the Protoceratops. Protoceratops was like a Triceratops, only smaller with no horns.
Oh, very cool. So I've unmuted the class there at Herod Elementary. Do we have some more questions from our students there, Mr. Bancroft or Dr. Franklin?
Yes, we do. We have them lined up, and there are quite a few questions. So I'll start with our first one here.
Hi, my name is Kate, and I have 2 questions. How did you discover what the dinosaur ate it?
Okay, we do a lot of things to discover what the dinosaurs eat. We take a look at the different kinds of plants that lived at the same time those dinosaurs were alive. And then we also look at what animals eat today. But most importantly, we look at their teeth, because the teeth can tell us a lot about what they would have been able to eat. Okay? What's your second question?
I have the second question. Where did T-Rex live?
T-Rex lived in the North American continent, in both what is now the United States and what is now Canada. And so there's a whole branch in the western part of the country, not in the eastern part of the country. But it didn't look like it does today when T-Rex was alive. Okay?
So one question. So tell her your name
My name is Caleb.
and what is your question?
My question is, do you have a picture of an ant stuck in sap? Tree sap?
I do. How did you know about that? That's weird, because I've been working on that. It's one of the coolest finds ever. They found part of a dinosaur's tail in amber, and right next to it is an ant. And they think the animal must have died with part of its tail lying in tree sap, and tree sap is what eventually hardens and turns into amber. And it caught an ant next to part of a dinosaur's tail, and that particular dinosaur was feathered, so we can actually see all the feathers. And that's different than finding the bones. To find the actual tail is an amazing thing. But yeah, there is an ant there stuck in the amber.
We've lost
And
audio from Janet.
Oh dear, they lost audio from me?
Nope, it's back now.
Okay, good. So anyway, there was amber that has the ant in it, and that is so cool. Ants sometimes get caught in amber without a piece of dinosaur's tail, but it's more interesting if there's a piece of dinosaur's tail there. Okay? Thank you.
You have a great question. Go, Manuela.
So go ahead and tell her your name, your first name, and then ask your question.
Hi, my name is Manuela. And my question is, my first question is, how did dinosaurs die?
All right. The last thing that killed the dinosaurs, there's a lot of evidence that a 6-mile wide asteroid hit the Earth in what's now the Yucatan Peninsula by Mexico. And that huge thing, 6 miles wide, when it hit the Earth, it triggered tsunamis and earthquakes, and plus it would have thrown all kinds of dirt and dust and everything up into the air. And they think that the stuff that was thrown up into the air blocked sunlight to getting from the Earth for as long as 2 years. And of course, if there's no sunlight, things die. And so they think that there's a lot more to it than that, but that's what they think happened, was that asteroid started the whole extinction event.
Good job.
Okay, and you said you got a second question? Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Nate, and I have one question.
Okay.
When were T-Rexes born?
The T-Rexes lived about 60, maybe 68 to 65 million years ago, 65.5 million years ago. So they're closest in time to us than almost any other dinosaur. T-Rexes would have been around at that last moment when the asteroid hit the Earth and killed all the dinosaurs. So they were around till the very end, but they didn't show up until very late in dinosaur history. A lot of dinosaurs lived before T-Rex came along. Okay.
Good job.
Good job, Nate.
These are very good questions.
How many big cars to equal one megalodon?
I don't know the answer to that. That's a very interesting question. Megalodon was huge, you know. So I'm not sure the answer to that question. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Harper, and I have 2 questions for you. Are you actually a real scientist?
I am a scientist, but I'm not a paleontologist because I didn't go to school specifically to study paleontology. But I am a scientist because I study the natural world. I study dinosaurs, and that makes me a scientist. And what was your second question?
What's the difference between dinosaur fossils and insect fossils?
Okay, we don't find a lot of insect fossils from the time of the dinosaurs. Mostly they get trapped in amber, and that's how we know about them. But the dinosaur fossils are bones 99% of the time, whereas the insect fossils usually are preserved as an impression in the rock. It's not there anymore, but it laid in mud and left an impression there that somehow got covered up, and so it's still there. So we don't actually have any parts of the insect. We just have the impression, you know, like if you stick your hand in mud, it leaves an impression. So the insects leave that kind of an impression, and if under the right circumstances, it becomes fossilized because insects don't have any bones to get fossilized. That's a very good question.
Say your name.
Hi, my name is Olive, and I have 2 questions for you. How do you find fossils?
Usually it's by luck. You walk in places where you know that fossils have been found before, and you look to see if you see a little piece of something that's a different color sticking out from the rock. Usually they're found in rock. Usually if there's plant life, you can't find fossils. So you usually have to look in places where it's very rocky. And now sometimes you can break open rocks, and by luck you might find a fossil there. But that doesn't happen nearly as often as people seeing a little piece of bone sticking out from some rock.
And my second question is it hard to make the books you make for us?
It's both hard and fun. I do work very hard to try to make my books the best books they can possibly be. And I will write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite till I get it just right. But I think this is fun. I think writing is fun. I love writing books for kids. And so even though it's hard work, I don't mind because I'm doing something that I really like doing.
Tell her your name.
My name is Alejandra. I only have one question. Which is your favorite book?
That I've written or that I've read?
That you've written.
Okay. Probably my most favorite book is the one I'm working on at the time. However, out of all the books that I've written, I'm most proud of my dinosaur books. And I really have worked very hard on those dinosaur books. And of course, T-Rex is my favorite. Okay? So that's my favorite too.
Great question.
Give your name and ask your question.
My name is Sushant, and I have one question. How many dinosaurs are there?
That's a very good question. Scientists have identified more than 2,000 different kinds of dinosaurs, and they think that they've only found about 10%, about 1 out of every 10 dinosaurs that actually lived. Because some dinosaurs would have lived in places where they wouldn't have been fossilized, and it's just it's by luck really that we even find dinosaur fossils. So they found about 2,000 of them, but they think there were easily 20,000 different kinds of dinosaurs that lived on the earth, and maybe even more than that. Okay.
Good job.
Give her name.
Hello, my name is Jade, and why is the T-Rex the biggest meat eater?
I couldn't hear you, sweetie.
Why is the T-Rex the biggest meat eater?
Okay, the T-Rex needed to eat because that's the way it was made. Animals are made to eat different kinds of food because that's how we stay in a balanced system. And so it had to eat meat to stay alive. That's what its body needed to stay alive. Just like people need protein. Some people don't get their protein from eating meat, but a lot of us do. Our bodies need that, and the T-Rex's body needed to have that meat in order to stay alive. Okay?
Good job, Jade. All right, Zoe.
Give your name.
My name is Zoe, and I have one question. How do you make your pictures look so realistic?
I wish I could claim credit for that, but I can't. The publishing company hires an artist to do the pictures, and these days they can generate the pictures on a computer. And so instead of drawing it by hand the way you probably do your pictures, they actually can draw using the computer, and that's how they make them look so realistic. My older books were done by an artist actually painting the pictures, but the newer books are done with computers. But I only do the words, I don't do the pictures.
Thank you. Don't give your name.
Hi, my name is Edward, and I have one question. How did people get formed?
Well, I'm going to step on a little bit of a toe here. I believe that God created people. That's what I personally believe, and that's how the people got here. Other people might believe different things about it, but that's how I believe the people got here. Okay?
Hi, my name is Bromley, and do you have a favorite dinosaur?
I do. Of course, I love T-Rex, but I think my most favorite one is Triceratops because he was big and rough and didn't take nothing from nobody, but he ate plants. So he didn't, have to eat other dinosaurs. So I like Triceratops the best. Have you got Triceratops there? Oh, how cool is that? That is my favorite. That is very cool. Okay. I like that dinosaur.
Good job, Brandon.
So give your name and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Aubrey, and
I lost you. Everything's frozen. There.
why did the megalodon die?
Okay, it's coming through garbled. I can't hear.
Why did the megalodon die?
Oh, we don't know that because it swam in the ocean. We don't find anything but actually all we've ever found of megalodon is its mouth, that huge giant jaws, and we can't tell anything from just those jaws. So we don't know whether what would have eventually killed it off. Maybe the oceans changed temperature as they do sometimes, and it got either too hot or too cold for it. But we don't know that. That's just a guess. Okay?
Okay.
So say your name and ask your question.
My name's May, and I have one question. Where are the most common places to find fossils?
Well, there's lots of good places to find fossils. Right now, some of the best fossils are coming out of China and Argentina in South America. Some really great ones are being found in Africa. They found dinosaurs on every single continent, including Antarctica. In the United States, the western, where the Rocky Mountains are where we find a lot of dinosaurs. And we also find lots in Montana and the Dakotas. We don't find too much in the eastern part of the country, but there are some that are found in New Jersey. But there are a lot of different places, but I live in Illinois and I can't find any dinosaur fossils here, and that makes me sad.
My name is Lola. I have one question. How long does it take to reconstruct a dinosaur?
Oh, a long time, because first they have to, restore all the bones and then figure out how they go together. The first time they ever put together a dinosaur, they took its thumb and attached it to the nose because they didn't know any better. So they used to make lots of mistakes, but we know more about it now. But it can take as long as 2 years to put together a dinosaur, and that's a long time.
Thank you, Lola. Okay, question. So remember your name and your question.
My name is Brooke, and my question is, where did dinosaurs come from?
Well, I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told the young man, I think it was a young man, about where the people come from. My personal belief is that God created them, okay? That's what I personally believe.
So you ready to tell your name?
Okay.
What's your name?
Hi, my name is Miles, by the way.
Okay.
What's your question?
And my question is, why are T-Rex the king of the dinosaurs?
Why are T-Rex what?
The king of the dinosaurs.
The king of the dinosaurs. When T-Rex was found, it was the biggest meat eater that anybody had ever found. And they were so impressed with how big he was, they decided that he must have been the king of them all. We've now found some dinosaurs that are bigger than T-Rex. But the thing about them, there's one called Giganotosaurus, and it's 8 feet bigger than T-Rex, but its brain was only half the size. So we think that still that T-Rex would have been the king because it was smarter than the dinosaur that was bigger than it. So we still like to think of him as the biggest and the smartest meat eater. And so we decided that made him king.
Big question, Miles.
Come on up, give your name and your question.
Hi, my name is Sadia.
So guys, back up a little bit.
Hi, my name is Sadia.
And what is your question?
Okay.
My question is, are dinosaurs related to other creatures?
Yes, they are. The dinosaurs are related. They're related some to reptiles, okay? They think that, reptiles evolved into the dinosaurs. But scientists now believe that birds came directly from the dinosaurs. That in fact that birds are dinosaurs, and that's how they changed over the years. Because even though I believe in God, I also believe that creatures changed over time, that they evolved. And I think that God can do it any way he wants. So I think that he chose to use evolution to create some of the dinosaurs. And then they changed into, they think a small meat-eating dinosaur eventually evolved into the birds.
Okay, thank you. So give your name and your question.
Hi, my name is Kaden. Did you go on a dig?
Did you go on a dig?
Oh yes, I went on one dig where I dug up several different dinosaur bones, and that was lots and lots of fun. If you ever get a chance to go on a dig, you should go.
Okay, good job. Next, your name and your question.
My name is Julius, and were some dinosaurs omnivores?
Did some dinosaurs live in the woods? Is that what you asked?
No.
Yeah, that.
Are some dinosaurs omnivores?
Omnivores.
Oh, wow, you know that word. That is really very good. Okay, yes, they do think that some dinosaurs were omnivores. They think that they ate both plants and animals, but the animals that they ate would have been like lizards and small things rather than, attacking a big dinosaur.
Okay?
Okay?
Give your name and a question.
Hi, My name is Oliver and I have two questions. My first question is that how fast can raptors run?
Oh, they don't know for sure, but they think they were very, very fast, especially the bigger ones like Utah raptor. The dinosaurs they've been able to figure out, some of them went like 30, 35 miles an hour, but they think that the dinosaurs like Gallimimus, which looks like an ostrich, that it could have maybe even gone 70 miles an hour, and that is very fast. But they have to have footprints to be able to tell how fast a dinosaur went. And so they could look at the legs and know that he was very fast, but unless they find footprints, they can't tell how fast. Okay.
Okay, we'll turn it back to you, Linda and Janet, to conclude today's author talk.
Okay, thank you. Those were great questions.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Franklin, and all of the students there at Harrod Elementary. We're so glad that you were able to join us today. We have one additional question from the Q&A, and that question is, can you tell if a dinosaur fossil is from a male or a female dinosaur?
What a good question. Sometimes they can by analyzing the amount of calcium in the bones. Okay, really cool story I'll tell really fast is they found a nest of dinosaurs in Mongolia, and there was a dinosaur on top of the eggs, and when they analyzed its bones, they found out that it was a male dinosaur sitting on top of the eggs, and so that I think is really cool. They can't always tell, but sometimes they can tell from the calcium in the bones.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Miss Janet. I think everyone has really enjoyed our the author talk today. What I'm going to do is...
okay. Can I say one more thing?
Oh, absolutely. Please do.
Yeah. I post on Facebook and Twitter a dinosaur joke every single day. So if you want to, friend me on Facebook or follow me on Twitter, every single day I post a dinosaur joke. So I would hope that you would find those fun because some of them are real silly.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing it, and we appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, students at Harrod. You've been a wonderful host school and a wonderful host classroom. I'm going to go ahead and just show one concluding slide here. And for any of the adults and any of our other classrooms that were joining us, if you'd like more information about Miss Riehecky, she has her own website at www.janetriehecky.com. We do have some other author talks that will be coming up, and I have the website listed here. We're also going to post the recording of today's webinar at the same URL. So if you visit Muses 3 website at the URL you see here with author-talks, we'll actually have a link posted probably tomorrow for today's author talk. And again, we want to thank everyone for their participation, and especially you, Ms. Riehecky. We so enjoyed the presentation today, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I was so glad to be invited to come. Oh, yay, thank you, thank you.
And this concludes today's webinar.